Welcome to Tilly's Trans Tuesdays. This week we're talking about something surprising that recently came up and that I never anticipated being a thing, much less one to talk about. And it's hard to describe, but I'm going to call it searching for meaning when you're trans. Hi, I'm Tilly Bridges, your host, and I'm joined by my writing partner, my best friend, my wife, our token cis representation, the detailed schematic that helped me find the way out, Susan Bridges.
That's a good one. I am a detailed schematic.
You really are, and you did help me find the way out of the darkness, so this will all make more sense as we get into what we're talking about today.
Which is, accidental, I suppose.
You're an accidental schematic.
I'm an accidental schematic.
Well, that's the best kind.
That is good.
Unexpected schematics. Yes. Our guest this week is CJ. CJ's a huge nerd about pretty much everything, be it media, music, sexuality, psychology, books, or games. They have a self-diagnosed busy mind and a passion for people and conversation. In the waking world, they work as chief operations officer for a fintech firm trying to make capitalism just a little bit less terrible. Outside of that, they're a board games fanatic, a moderately good pianist, a lover of audio drama, and a painter of small plastic models. Oh, and they love cheese and wine. Welcome, CJ.
Yeah, I put that at the end. Just, the priority is the cheese and wine. Everything else, we can fit in around that. But
you
as
gotta
long
have
as
a
it's cheese and
hierarchy.
wine,
So
exactly.
You know what's most important.
You do have to have. Well, in this circumstance, you have to have hierarchies.
Yes.
Hello,
right.
It's lovely to be here. Thank you very much for inviting me.
It's great to have you. Let me ask, just so that I'm clear and so that the audience is clear, what is a fintech firm?
Oh Lord. So it is a financial technology company. So we are essentially a technology service provider for financial companies, generally small financial companies that are trying to service parts of society that usually are excluded from any kind of help when it comes to investing money, banking services, because there's no education for it and there's no promotion for it. Thus ends my spiel. But that's essentially what we're doing.
That's pretty cool, though.
Are we pronouncing it right? right? Fellow humans,
Fellow humans.
friends.
I'm very
Foolish
down with us
mortals.
all being captain. That's great.
Yes.
Let's all one starship each.
I like it.
Yep.
I'm fully down with that plan. But largely, like I'm very lucky. You know, I've had complete support from my wife, from my friends, from my loved ones,
That's
family.
so good.
I really haven't had much. I haven't had anyone I know in my life. I haven't had any pushback. Obviously, there's stuff you get online
Yeah.
occasionally, which I know you know more than well enough about, sadly.
Yep.
And occasionally you get the odd comment or things out in the world. But I think I commented on something recently that, like, generally I find, like, you get a lot more stuff, a lot more problematic stuff in the online world than you do out in the real world. At least that's my experience. Like, I'm much more likely to get something horrible said to me on Twitter because of something I've said than I am hanging out in the corner shop or going to the pub.
Yeah, I mean, I think it does still happen in the real world, and it's probably, given our society, a little worse for trans women, or, like, for you, it's probably worse if you're in a dress and makeup
Totally.
than
Yes.
otherwise. Yeah.
Yeah, I
But
completely
online,
agree.
the anonymity definitely emboldens people
It
for
does.
sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
especially because in person, you know, I get weird looks from people, but especially when it's warm and you can see my guns, my biceps, they leave me alone a little bit. You know.
You do have amazing biceps.
Oh, thank you,
yes,
thank you.
yeah,
Let's talk about that for the next
I have
time.
seen photos. Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. What has been for you then the best and worst or most difficult part of transitioning to being non-binary and being your true self?
The best has been feeling like this thing that I was not repressing, but was ignoring, not doing that anymore, and it just feels so natural to say, I'm CJ, I'm non-binary, my pronouns are they, them, having other people react to that. It doesn't change much about how I act in the world, or, you know, how my life is in terms of what I do. That has all stayed the same. Still a massive nerd. But
Same.
but you know, yeah. But it just feels better. And like that feeling is, you know, it's euphoric. And this is a slightly semi-problematic thing, but when I came out, I remember very distinctly, it was not long after Zack Snyder's Justice League had come out. And we can talk about that till the cows come home. But I posted a GIF, which is the GIF of the Flash running at the end of that film, which is a wonderful slow motion piece. And that is how it felt. Now, we won't go into Ezra Miller conversation right now, but that GIF, that expression on their face as they're running, that's how it felt. It felt like, oh, freedom.
Yeah.
And so it's not sorry.
No, you go ahead.
I was going to say it's not a tangible thing. It's not like this thing is the best thing. It's the general whole confluence of it together.
Yeah. I was just going to say that I also think that people don't realize that ignoring those feelings inside or pretending they're not there, it takes so much of your energy and time and thought that you don't even realize is there. That was an amazing thing for me, is once I didn't have to do that, how much more open I was to the world and the experiences around me, because I had the capacity to deal with those things suddenly. Before, I never did.
I completely understand that. And then the worst is an increased level of fear.
Yeah, sure.
To be quite frank,
I
think I've always been I've gone through periods where I've been quite gothy and stuff, and you can get crap out on the streets for that.
Yeah.
You know, but that it's kind of minor. And I've always been sort of a little bit femme, and I'm not particularly, I'm not aggressive at all or anything like that. And so a little bit of, stick for that. But going out in a dress and makeup and high heels and tights and being like, hello at the train station locally, and getting on the train with a bunch of randoms and traveling into the city, and then walking from said train station in the city to whichever hopefully queer friendly pub or space that I'm going to for that night out, that is suddenly a lot more scary than it was if I was doing it in, jeans and a shirt and a hoodie or something. So, I've been scared out before because there are aggressive people around at a point in time. But now sometimes it's scary, even if there aren't, because of the potential of it.
Right.
And I say, I've been very lucky. I've had some stuff shouted at me. very rare. And I've definitely heard comments and mumbling, and you get a lot of stares.
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't care. Come look.
You're beautiful.
I'm very happy. Yeah, stare at me all you like. I have been lucky, but it's still the fear. And, I live near Birmingham in the UK, and Birmingham has a very thriving, active LGBT plus quarter in it with lots of bars and clubs and activities and stuff. It's very good, but there have been hate attacks in that area in the last year.
Yeah.
Now, not specifically against trans people, it's been against queer people in general, but,
Sure.
that is it's an increasing level, and the rhetoric in the UK is dreadful right now.
Yeah.
Across the media, across politics, it's just appalling. It's the worst it has ever been for trans people in general, in terms of the discussion right now.
Yeah, I think it's pretty much the same here in the U.S. right now. So, I mean, we have areas that are much more welcoming and accepting, but then, there's half the country that is the opposite of that, and a federal government that refuses to do anything to stop it. So, yeah, it's rough out there. So please, all of you listening, be careful. Be aware of your surroundings.
Yeah.
Don't go alone if you can help it. Have a buddy.
Even Los Angeles is pretty mixed.
Yeah.
A lot of people think, we're just all a bunch of happy liberals here.
Yeah, that is not the case.
And it's like, no, all the rich people are here, right?
Yeah.
And you know what those rich people are like.
Are you telling me that American movies have lied to me all this time? Because I'm very disappointed in this.
I can tell you Hollywood is not very cool.
Actually, the location Hollywood is, well, it can be a little dangerous, I suppose. But if you're talking about like the entertainment business as Hollywood.
Yeah, entertainment business is a totally different thing than actual Hollywood.
Yeah, but okay, we're getting way off topic.
It's fine.
We should get into the actual topic of the week.
Okay, let's do that.
Okay, let's do that. Okay, so this is going to be a little more speculative than other topics, but please stick with me because I think you'll understand by the time we're done. Or I hope so, anyway, because otherwise I've completely failed at communicating this incredibly nebulous thing. Hooray! So recently, an image crossed my social media. It's an artistic cutaway of the Death Star from Star Wars by Hans Jensen from Star Wars Incredible Cross Sections 1999. You can see this photo in the social media and Google Doc versions of this topic at TillysTransTuesdays.com. And I hear you already, but Tills, how is this trans? Look, just stick with me. Okay, listen. I have always, always, always loved images like that. And not just of sci-fi stuff, though I absolutely did love seeing the insides of spaceships and sci-fi gadgets and all those fun goodies, but also houses and airplanes and buildings and underground missile silos. It doesn't matter. I loved them all. When Susan and I first moved in together, we even had a giant poster of the Enterprise D from Star Trek The Next Generation on the wall, and it had cutaways like that so that you could see the different decks and where all the different parts of the ship were, and I adored it.
It had bathrooms on there, too.
That was, you could finally see where they were.
Yeah. I have those too, and I've also got the full blueprint set that goes through deck by deck.
Yes.
That shows an incredible amount
cool.
of whale tanks that were on the Enterprise D.
Cetacean Ops.
Yes.
Yeah, which they finally brought into Lower Deck.
They did.
So it's
Cetacean Ops.
Because it's a cartoon and you can show whales a lot easier. But okay. But something about them has always fascinated me. I'd spend hours as a kid poring over them, just staring and getting lost in my imagination. And for that matter, I also loved my Star Trek Next Generation technical manual and any kind of blueprints or diagrams of anything. And this is a weird question that I never really imagined asking someone, but what's been your relationship to diagrams and blueprints and cutaways and things like that? Did you have the same kind of weird pull or interest in them?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I love all that stuff. I've got various ones of Star Wars and Star Trek. As I said, I had the TNG blueprints of the Enterprise D. I've also somewhere, no, I know where they are actually, they're in my loft because they're so big, the Star Trek Next Generation fact files. There was 17... I'm holding my hands out. It's not very good for a podcast, is it? But, like 2 meters of folders just stacked full of information. And at least 2 of those folders are just cutaways of starships. Nothing else.
Cool.
I know. It's amazing.
I didn't know this existed.
I mean, they're completely superfluous now with the internet. Like everything in them is on the internet.
Yeah.
But they're so great. And I am always fascinated about what makes up something. Yeah.
Yes. So when its Death Star image crossed my feed, it immediately gave me pause. It's absolutely stunning on its own as a piece of art, and I fell right back into those old feelings, staring at it in wonder and getting lost in my imagination. But something was different. I still loved it and was still getting lost in my imagination, and it still sparked that same feeling I always used to get but never had a way to describe, except this time it was a little less. And then it dissipated and was replaced by this deep sadness. And when I tell you I was completely baffled, that's not hyperbole. What the ding-dang was going on here? Well, by now you've realized I'm somewhat introspective, and I think almost all trans people are. We kind of have to be to figure ourselves out in spite of transphobic society. And then I remembered that my high school, for some reason, offered architecture classes, and I took them for 4 years. I thought I wanted to be an architect, but I didn't actually like drawing those or the exact measurements. I wasn't good at it, and the math really annoyed me. I didn't want to make those things. I just wanted to look at them. But why? What was I hoping to gain by this? Why did they fascinate me? What was it that drew me to them like a moth to flame or like a Tilly to a pizza? And then it hit me like an anvil out of the sky. Someone mentioned in the replies that they used to love the Richard Scarry. Is it scary? Is it scary? The Richard Scarry children's books for the same reason. And I remembered that I did too. And he used cutaways rather frequently.
I remember those books as well.
Yeah, right? They're so fun.
Yeah, we definitely had a couple at home when I was a kid.
Yeah. So what was this revelation, this epiphany, the discovery that made me love cutaways and diagrams and schematics and blueprints, make it all make sense? And why my wonder turned to sadness? It occurred to me that I was always so fascinated because I wanted to see what was inside and how it was different from what was outside. And when you're a trans kid who doesn't know you're trans, every little thing can be a window into trying to find yourself. And that was it. That was it exactly. And it's why those feelings about it changed. When I looked at these cutaways, I was filled with this longing. And it wasn't just because I wanted to go adventuring on a starship, although I do want that. Don't get me wrong. Please hit me up, NASA. But I was searching for meaning about myself. I was hoping that in understanding why things inside were different from their outsides, I could somehow understand how my insides, I'm a girl, were different from my outsides, not a boy. So I wanted to ask you, CJ, if you had anything like this in your past, maybe not exactly the schematics, but something you always loved without understanding why, and maybe later you figured out it was somehow tied in with something else in your life in an unexpected way.
I think I've always loved clothes, but I never got particularly excited about masculine style clothing. And I'd always, I'd always see people wearing, dresses and skirts and things like that. And definitely my impression when I was younger was, God, that's so pretty. Isn't that nice? And that was the end of the thought. It wasn't like, oh, I want to wear that. It was just because that idea was like silly, as a teenager, that's not going to happen. And then obviously, and I've been very fortunate to have a lot of trans friends, a lot of non-binary friends, going back pretty much to my student days. So I've known a lot of people, but it's odd that it's still taken me so long to get to my journey, despite having these people around me going, hey, look at me. You could be like me. And I'm like, oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
So that seems scary. So I think, my fascination over that kind of, I didn't realize that until coming out as non-binary. And as I was saying earlier, that kind of opening the door to me to present in other ways. I didn't realize that, I really love this. I love shoes and presenting in different ways and mixing and matching things and trying different things out. It's led me right back into kind of goth clothing and stuff, which I haven't really worn since I was like a student in my early 20s. But I've gone a lot more like, I've got like goth jewelry and things and stuff that I've been buying recently. And that is all like, oh, this is me. This is so great.
Yeah, it's amazing how we continue to find out new things about ourselves as we go. Things we didn't expect, it all comes back around at some point. So
yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So I spent my childhood, wondering why my insides and my outsides didn't match. And was there a word for that? And there is. It's gender dysphoria. And is there something that's the opposite of that when you feel your outsides match your insides? Yes, there is. It's gender euphoria. There are posts on both of those at TillysTransTuesdays.com. And some of you may think that this is a bit of a stretch. So let me just say that you may be surprised to know that I immediately heard back from other trans people who were suddenly having the same realization about themselves after seeing me talk about it. I think this is officially a thing. Because what I mentioned about transphobic society is true. When you're not raised in a home environment that's conducive and accepting of exploring your gender and your truth to find the real you, when you're not even told that trans is just something people can be and it's a perfectly normal and okay way for humans to be, nothing makes sense. You don't understand the world, you don't understand yourself. You feel a little broken inside. My parents, my friends, my family, my schools, all of society around me acted like cisgender boys and girls were the only way you could be. The word trans was either unknown or never spoken by those who did know, as if it was some kind of demonic curse. And so I didn't understand why I felt the way I did. I didn't understand why I couldn't just be the girl I knew I was, why I couldn't do the things I wanted just because they were for girls and everyone told me I wasn't one and couldn't be one. And this is why I was overwhelmed with sadness at seeing that Death Star cutaway. It was for that poor girl who just wanted to know herself, to understand why she felt the way she did, and why she looked for it in every piece of cutaway art she could find as if they unlocked the mysteries of the universe. We're all searching for meaning, for truth, anywhere we can find it, and we have to find ourselves in places that were maybe not even intended to be for or about us. And we still have to do that as adults because our representation is nearly non-existent or often awful. I wanted to ask you, CJ, how have you found non-binary representation in media to be? Have you had to find your own representation in something that even specifically might not have spoken directly to being non-binary?
Oh, it's very poor in mainstream media. The odd representation, I'm trying to even think of ones that have really jumped out to me, like, oh, that was good. There's a little in a show called Easy on Netflix, which is a show that I really appreciate. Like that has a lot of queer representation in it. And then Orange is the New Black maybe had a non-binary character in at some point. And of course, Star Trek Discovery is the one that I think is probably been the most successful of mainstream shows that has really just addressed it head on and presented it within the constant Star Trek universe, which is lovely because, of course, in that, when the character kind of comes out in the show, everyone goes, "Yeah, sure, no worries," and that's the and that's sort of the end. And then the show continues, and it's it doesn't really get discussed after that point. But that's great because at that point, it's just a non-binary character in the show. I think that's rare. I think I will generally identify more with women or femme characters than I will with men or mass characters or cis men or characters in a TV show. I always have. Whenever I play role-playing RPGs, I will invariably choose a woman character if there isn't an option of a non-binary character. And there's never an option of a non-binary character, right? That doesn't exist in role-playing yet. You either get a character with the body with boobs or without boobs. That is the RPG RPG computer game construction at the moment. It's very, very subtle and nuanced. Not. So, yeah, I hope it, I do feel it's getting better. I know that Doctor Who, which is a show that I'm a big fan of, they are really pushing. There's going to be a trans woman character in the new series, and they are bringing on more and more queer, not just queer characters, but queer actors to play those characters as well in the next few series. And, so things are changing, and it's funny that disconnect I was saying earlier, the conversation in the UK is dire at the moment, and it is. But there is a disconnect between sort of the newspapers, sadly, even the BBC, which hurts my heart a bit, but even that has become too transphobic for my liking, and the government. And then there is still great, creatives working in theatre and books and TV and comics that are bringing great stuff out in the UK, and it's just pushing back against this tide of anti-trans rhetoric that seems so loud and yet is spouted by such a small minority of the country.
Yeah.
So it's coming. It's coming.
Yeah. This just brought to mind, I don't know if you've seen it or if it's available in the UK, but there's a 2-season show called Rutherford Falls that's on Peacock here in the US. Okay. And there's a non-binary main character. They're part of the main cast. Their name is Bobby, and they are fabulous. And they are super well done. And also, I can't remember the actor's name at the moment, but they steal absolutely every scene that they are in. They are a joy to watch every time they're on screen. So if that's available there, you might check it out. It's a really good, funny show and really good non-binary rep.
Thank you. I will definitely check that out. I'm always looking for any media with more queer people,
Right,
more
'cause it's so
non-binary
hard-
people, even better. So yeah,
so hard
yeah.
to find it sometimes.
Thank you. I will.
For the folks listening, if you'd like more on looking for ourselves in places that don't feature us on the surface, you can see the Trans Tuesday on finding your own representation with Pink, and the Trans Tuesday on the New Past, which was about finding my own representation with KJ and Paper Girls, which gave me back some of what transphobic society had stolen from me. And you can even see the Trans Tuesday on physical representation, which is really about having to find our own representation through somewhat similar body types because we're left with so few options. And yes, sometimes we find our own representation in cutaways and blueprints and schematics and technical diagrams, because maybe if they can help us understand those things, they can somehow help us understand ourselves. Thanks for being here, CJ.
No, thank you so much. It's been a joy, and I'll come back anytime.
Yay. Maybe for the very next episode.
Maybe. Spoilers.
Yeah. Don't be afraid to look inside the things around you, or inside society, or inside yourself. All of us want to better understand ourselves and the world around us, and you never know where those answers may be waiting. Tilly Bridges, end transmission. Tilly's Trans Tuesdays is hosted by Tilly Bridges and Susan Bridges, with audio editing and sound mixing by Jillian Morgan. Special thanks to Daisy and Jane for the use of Sorry Not Sorry as our show's theme music. Please stop by and show your support at daisyandjane.bandcamp.com and soundcloud.com/daisyandjane. You can find me at Tilly Bridges on Twitter and Hive, on Mastodon at tillybridges@mastodon.social, at facebook.com/TillySBridges, and on Insta at HeckYeahTillyBridges. And you can find Susan on all of those at Susan L. Bridges. The Google Doc and social media versions of this week's topic and all past topics are available at tillystranstuesdays.com. For more information, visit pendantaudio.com. Thanks for listening.